Welcome back to my channel. I'm Joe with Smokin Joe's Pit BBQ. On today's video, I'm going to teach you everything you need to know about a prime rib and how to properly cook it. Stay tuned. All right, let's get started on this cook. And you guys know I always protect my hands anytime that I'm working with sharp knives. First, I always install a cut glove on my left hand since I'm right-handed. And this cut glove will protect your hand just in case your knife slips on you. Then I put a pair of these Clean Space Project gloves, these black nitrile gloves that are super strong. And these are the gloves that I use in my food truck as well. Check out the link below if you guys are interested in getting a box or two of these, or maybe a case or two. All right, here's our prime rib. I'm gonna take it out of the package. So we're starting with a 17.34 pound prime rib, okay? And throughout this trimming process, I do wanna talk about prime rib in general. Now, when people mention prime rib, it doesn't mean that it's a prime grade. You guys know that the USDA sets standards on their meats, and they start with prime, then they go to choice, and then they go to select. Well, believe it or not, this right here is a select prime rib. So the reason they call this a prime rib, even though it's not a prime grade, is because it comes from the rib primal of the animal. All right, so the cows have 8 major primals, okay? The rib being one of them. Since this comes from the rib primal, that's why they call it prime rib. It has nothing to do with the USDA grade, which again is select, choice, and prime. Now, why did I get a select? Well, the reason I got a select prime rib is because number one, it was on sale. I got this prime rib at $4 a pound. I paid $70 for this big boy right here, and that is a great price. Now, I will show you guys, I'm just gonna be trimming this, but I am going to be showing you guys how much marbling is in this prime rib, even though it's a select grade. I'm just going to take all of this fat off of the top. Always use a sharp knife. Now you will remove some of the meat, but try to remove most of the fat. Now there are certain cuts of meat that I like to buy in the select grade, including beef ribs, okay? I think prime ribs are extremely marbled and they're really rich, and I just enjoy a select beef rib instead of a prime beef rib. And that is the same case with a prime rib. I enjoy a select prime rib over a prime rib because the marbling is not that much different. So I'm just trimming the heavy fat pockets and most of the silver skin. So I'm also going to be trussing this, and I'm going to talk about why people truss their prime ribs. So every prime rib is going to have this heavy fat pocket right here. It's up to you if you want to leave it on or take it off. I like to take it off. In fact, you can almost take it off just running my thumb right in between the roast and the fat. You can see it's almost coming off by itself. Check that out. But I'm going to help it. I've got my knife right here, and just slowly trim this off. So this prime rib still has the bones, and right on the other side of this fat cap is where you're going to find the bones. So what you need to do is trim right up against these bones, right above them. Now sometimes I like to trim it down but leave the bones on. In this case, I'm going to take the bones completely off. You can also partially remove these bones and then truss them back on. But again, in this case, I'm going to take them completely off. All right, so our bones end right here in this area. Just feel for the bone, and that's where I'm going to cut them off. And don't throw them away, because you can smoke these and nibble on them like a rat does cheese, if you know what I'm saying. There we go. Do not throw these away. You're gonna have some beef back ribs right there. So as I mentioned earlier, again, this is a select prime rib, but check out that marbling. You're gonna find this on every single prime rib roast. It's gonna be well marbled. So again, you don't have to spend the $17 per pound or whatever prime rib goes for, prime rib, okay? Again, this is a select prime rib. All right, so this prime rib is almost ready to be trussed up. But before I do that, in my family, it's just 3 of us. If you're gonna have company, you know, you wanna leave a section for everybody. But in my case, since it's only 3 of us, I'm gonna cut some ribeye steaks off of this prime rib. And you'll see how I do that. I like them nice and thick, about 1 inch thick. And again, let me show you the marbling on these steaks. Check that out, okay? This is a select prime rib. So I'm gonna set these 3 steaks aside and save them for another day. All right, so I'm just gonna move my prime rib aside. So I've got some butcher's twine right here. I do like to soak my twine in a little bit of water. That way it doesn't burn on us. And I'm going to make these about 14 inches. All right, so I'm just gonna lay out my butcher's twine vertically. Now you can get fancy with your butcher's twine if you want, but I'm not that fancy. I'm a backyard barbecue guy. So grab your prime rib and lay it right over the butcher's twine, just like that. And starting from the middle, just tie a simple knot. Double knotted, if you will. So this is a question I often get, is why do you truss a prime rib? Well, simply put, it makes it nice and round, number 1. And number 2, it's gonna make the prime rib more uniform, which is gonna cook a lot more evenly than when you don't have it in butcher's twine. And the last reason you wanna truss up your prime rib is because it will split open on you sometimes, okay? This is a very delicate piece of meat. And if you don't trust it, sometimes a prime rib will want to separate on you. The spinalis, which is the prize of the prime rib, will want to separate from the prime rib, and you don't want that, okay? So now I'm just going to cut the excess twine. And there you have it, a perfectly trimmed and trussed prime rib. I'm gonna wash my hands and I'll bring you guys right back. All right, let's season up our prime rib. I'm gonna use some Worcestershire sauce as a binder. Get the sides, get the bottom of it as well. It's gonna give us a good beefy flavor. All right, let's apply our first rub. I'm gonna be using this Cattleman's Grill Tuscan steak seasoning, which is fantastic. Gonna add a good amount of this. Now this is a big piece of meat, so make sure you add enough rub. Got some good herbs in there as well. Don't forget your sides. All right, our second rub is this limited edition Berry Treasure from Pia Seasoning. In fact, it's not even out, but be on the lookout for it. This has truffle, butter, and onion, so feel free to add enough. And that buttery flavor is gonna go perfect with this prime rib. Don't worry, it's not salty. I tasted it out of the bottle. No. All right, so I've got this prime rib seasoned up. Now this next step is a very important step of cooking an amazing prime rib, okay? Let's get an internal temperature of this prime rib. Right now it's sitting at 40 degrees, okay? I'm gonna let this sit right here on my cutting board for about 45 minutes. Let it come down to room temperature. Meanwhile, I'm gonna go outside, fire up my Yoder YS1500 at 275 degrees, and I'll bring you guys back in a minute. Stay tuned. All right, my YS1500 is set at 275 degrees, and it's nice and warm. So let's load up this prime rib. Look at all that smoke. I know I've mentioned this before, but for a pellet smoker, this YS1500 really gives off a ton of smoke, and it is an amazing bark builder on your food. So here's our prime rib. It's sitting at 70 degrees. I'm going to set it right here, right in the middle of our grate. Look at that. Absolutely wonderful. So some of you guys might be wondering why I let this prime rib come up to room temperature. Well, if you guys have heard that term coast to coast pink or edge to edge pink, letting it come up to room temperature is really going to give you a nice uniform cook, and you're going to end up with a nice pink center from the edge to edge or coast to coast. So we're going to let this prime rib smoke for 1 hour at 275 degrees. We'll come outside, get an internal temperature, and I'll show you guys the next step. Stay tuned. All right, so total cook time has been 1 hour, and you'll have to excuse the background noise. It sounds like my neighbor fired up his private jet. Not sure what's going on over there. But let's take a look at our prime rib. Again, we're only at 1 hour at 275 degrees. Still doesn't look ready. Let's get an internal temperature just to see where we're at. All right, we're sitting at 85 degrees. So at this point, I'm gonna crank up my smoker to 350 degrees. I'm gonna let this roll at 350 degrees for about 30 minutes, and I'll bring you guys right back. All right, let's check on our prime rib. 1 hour at 275 and 30 minutes at 350 degrees. Let's check the internal temperature. All right, we're still sitting at 89 degrees. All right, so I'm just gonna rotate this prime rib. Just like that. We're still only sitting at 90 degrees internal. I'm looking for a final temperature of 125 degrees. Once we hit that, I'll bring you guys right back and I'll show you the next step. Stay tuned. All right, it's been another 30 minutes. Total cook time 2 hours. Again, the first hour at 275, second hour at 350 degrees. And that prime rib is looking really nice, getting some nice color. Let's check the internal temperature here. All right, so we're sitting at 105 degrees, about 20 more degrees to go, and we are ready. So I melted a stick of unsalted butter. Just gonna pour this over the top of our prime rib. All right, the prime rib is ready, and the total cook time was 2 hours and 45 minutes. I just pulled it off. As you can see, we're sitting at 124 degrees internal. So all I'm gonna do at this point, you gotta let it rest. Just like we let it come up to room temperature before we smoked it, we have to let it rest after the cook. So I'm just gonna tent this with foil, probably for 15-20 minutes, and I'll bring you guys right back. All right, the prime rib has been resting for 15 minutes, and I cannot wait to slice into this bad boy. Check that out. Got some juices on the tray, and do not throw those away. That is liquid gold right there. All right, let's slice into our freshly smoked prime rib. We're gonna go for that money shot right in the middle. Oh man, it is super tender. And remember, this is a select prime rib, okay? Not a prime grade prime rib. And look at that. Absolutely wonderful. Nice pink to pink edge. It's not overcooked. The spinalis is perfect. Nice and juicy. Oh man, this is absolute money right here. Hopefully you guys can make that out on the camera. So the final temperature was 125 degrees. We let it rest for about 15 minutes, tented in foil. And we've got this amazing looking prime rib. It's nice and juicy. Man, I can't get over how juicy this prime rib is. And again, we got that pinkness all the way from edge to edge. Man, check that out. Nice and juicy. For a select prime rib, I gotta tell you, you shouldn't have to spend an extra $15 per pound. Let's grab a few slices. Probably half-inch thick. Oh man, the aroma is absolutely amazing. Obviously, if you have somebody in your household that likes their meat a little bit more well, you can give them this edge over here and it'll be perfect for them. But look at this. This is money. Oh man. Let's give it a taste. All right, I've got myself some green beans and mushrooms and some mashed potatoes to pair up with our juicy prime rib. Just gonna grab the jus and toss that prime rib in there. Look at that. That is money right there. And dinner is served. I mean, look at the size of that spinalis. Big spinalis. Again, this is a select prime rib, okay? So I'm gonna get a piece of the spinalis. Nice piece here. And also a piece right here from the eye. The center portion. All right, I'm gonna try the spinalis first. Here we go. Check this out. Beautiful piece right there. That is a money shot. There we go. Holy smokes, that is delicious. Now I've had some prime rib, which is really good, but I gotta tell you, this select prime rib takes the cake. This is the absolute best prime rib I've ever had, and it is a select. I gotta tell you, these rubs from Cattleman's Grill, this Tuscan steak, paired up with this buried treasure from PS Seasoning. Now I don't know when this rub is gonna come out, but when it does, grab yourself a couple of bottles, check out the links below and get 10% off. Now let's try a little bit more from that center portion of the ribeye. Again, still nice and juicy. Check that out. There we go. Super tender, super juicy, and so flavorful. You know what? I'm gonna add some of this truffle seasoning, the black truffle and butter and onion on our mashed potatoes. Oh yes. Kicked up these mashed potatoes just adding that seasoning. I'm definitely gonna have to order some more of that rub because this is absolutely amazing. French fries, wings, mashed potatoes, steak. That rub is absolutely amazing. Hopefully I answered all of your questions about prime rib, but if I didn't, feel free to ask them down below. Either I'll get to it or one of my subscribers will. Make sure you guys check out the links below and grab yourself some of the items that I used in this video. For example, these Clean Space gloves, grab yourself a few cases, and PS Seasoning for coming out with this amazing rub, and thank them for sponsoring today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed this prime rib video. If this is your first time to my channel, do me a favor, hit that subscribe button. And if you enjoyed this video, give me a thumbs up. Until next time, Joe with Smokin Joe's Pit BBQ. See ya.